Dr. Ippolito, two stories. My daughter got kicked off of Alice in Wonderland in Central Park, and we took her to the emergency room, and she's bleeding from her forehead. And the ER said, we don't have a plastic guy, go to his office. So I went to his office. I got a bill for $3,000 for glue the guy put in. It took him 5 seconds to place. I was at a tennis match here in D.C., and all of a sudden I get this black spot. I call an ophthalmologist friend of mine. He goes, you're having a retinal tear, go to the ER right away. I go to the ER. They say, you don't need an ER. We're going to hook you up with the ophthalmologist and go see him tomorrow morning. Both emergencies. Now, in that case, I think I got a bill for $1,500, both out of network. Does network matching help me in either of those situations in which I was not seen in a hospital, but rather referred to the physician's office?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. It's a very good clarifying question. The in-network guarantee would take care of a very large portion of the surprise bills, but they are the ones that occur at your in-network facility.
So on the other hand, what Ms. Hassan was speaking of, I do gather that under the proposal that she and I have, I would have been cared for in both situations, in which there would have been an in-network price, and so there would have been an out-of-network dispute, but I wouldn't have paid $3,000 for 20 seconds worth of glue, or $1,500, probably worth it because I got my retinal back in place. But nonetheless, it was out of network. So I want to say there is a superiority, and I think we're naive if we don't think that there would be more migration out of the in-network hospital into a setting not covered by an in-network rate if we were to put restrictions upon that which a physician could bill. I mean, we would just be naive to otherwise think so.
I would clarify one point. The first is that both an arbitration and a benchmark system would have covered you in that case that you're talking about.
Arbitration and benchmark would, but not an in-network.
That's exactly right. So in-network would, in theory, need to be paired with something else.
So the other thing I want to say about benchmark is that this is a ratio of, Ms. Moody, will you hold that up, please? Ms. Moody calls herself Vanna White. If you see dark blue has the highest rates of care, dark brown has the lowest rates. It's easier to get doctors in Florida than it is to get doctors in Alaska, so therefore you must pay doctors in Alaska more. Market forces, if you will. Dr. Kavanaugh would like that. Mr. Kavanaugh would like that. I suspect even in Florida there are a great variation. If you're in Miami, you probably get more docs willing to work, and if you're in a rural area, fewer. But I will make the point, as Ms. Hassan did, that to have a benchmark would require a complexity that would reflect both different states as well as different areas within a state. And I do think that's a complexity there.
I think it's an important point, and I think it's the reason why the benchmark and the arbitration options that are included in the bill that we're talking about are based on the average in-network rate in the area. The second point just...
I'm not sure that our benchmark actually is, but we can...
I'm happy to circle back.
And the other thing I want to dispute, if you will, is that you had mentioned in your testimony that... Thank you. You had mentioned in your testimony... Oh, I should also raise this. I also want to make the point that the purple are states which, as laboratories of democracy, have put in arbitration models, and the oranges, Tennessee orange for our chair, are states which have the benchmark, but no state has a network matching. So empirically, I want to just say that there's a prejudice among our states for, and I see Washington State either has UW purple or LSU purple. I'm not sure what that is.
I would clarify one thing, just in the sense that the data do indicate that most hospitals do not produce out-of-network bills for in-network patients, which really, I think if we were mapping that, would suggest that in all 50 states...
Oh, I accept that. And in fact, I think that's the superiority of the dispute resolution. But I have limited time, so I'm going to make one more point. In your testimony, you suggested that the dispute resolution would be more expensive, but I will point out that CBO scores the savings of the Hassan-Cassidy proposal at $17 billion, and of the network matching is only $9 billion. And so it might be expensive, but it's less expensive than network matching. I'll probably hang for a second round if there is, but I will now, out of time, yield back.